entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We have 2 new public hearings. I will start with, the first one on the agenda is 403
One.
Pleasant Street. Well, I think it's a
Same.
typo.
Yeah.
It's 403, 401, depending on where you
Look.
and I will read that into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations for the town of West Bridgewater. The Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing the 18th of July 2017 in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a notice of intent filed by Holmgren Engineering on behalf of David Plant to improve an existing landscaping, including a settling basin to control stormwater runoff at 403 Pleasant Street, and we're open.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Scott Rogers from Home Engineering. Me representing Mr. Plant. We filed a notice of intent with the Conservation Commission. As was mentioned, the property is used for landscape storage and materials. Here's existing use for the property located now.
Do you have green cards?
I do.
Before we get too far into it. Take those. Thank you. All right.
Is there anyone here for this hearing for the 403, 401? All right, so continue on. I was figuring we reposition if they need to see it.
There is an existing wetland area located over here which feeds into Town River. Obviously, there's a 50-foot buffer zone that goes along with that and a 100-foot buffer zone that goes along with that. The existing landscape materials yard is located mostly within the upland area. Under the proposed condition, we are proposing to install a detention basin located between the 50 and 100-foot buffer. Currently, there are no existing drainage facilities on site, so we are making improvements to the existing condition by adding in that new drainage detention basin located there. As you can see on the site plan part of it, there are changes that will occur to the yard to make it conform more to this type of a layout. With this kind of a facility, it's in constant flux. There's always materials coming in, being transferred into mulch and chipped, going to different piles and stuff like that. So there's always kind of a shift of materials going on here. We're also going to propose to have the lot graded so that water here, stormwater runoff, will reach through a swale into that detention basin. Before the detention basin, there's actually going to be a sediment forebag located in the front section here with a 3-foot wide stone berm that separates the sediment forebag itself from the detention basin. And the stormwater runoff from that basin is actually controlled through a riprap overflow spillway right here, which controls the stormwater outflow for both the 2, 10, 25, and 100-year storm events. Post that riprap spillway, there'll be a 3-foot wide grass swale with some stone check dams located about every 100 feet or so. And that basically provide an additional stormwater quality structure or facility that will basically get the water from the facility and the detention basin back into the wetlands. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. I'd like to answer any questions that you may have.
This has been here how long?
What's that?
This has been here how long?
The facility? Less than a year.
This whole thing's been here less than a year? Has it?
John, you want to go first before we?
Sure. I've given you quite an extensive report, and I won't read it word for word so that we tie up the meeting. So that can stand as the record response from me. But as the report indicates, Mr. Shalick, a trustee of 401 Pleasant Street, proposed to the Zoning Board of Appeals a plan that stayed 100 feet away from the wetlands, which is this line here and this red line up here. The wetlands being the green line and the orange being the 50-foot setback. His plan was to make it into a contractor's yard from here at Maple Street all the way up to the Atlas storage facility, which is way up here. So it was all one lot. They purposely left everything to do with stormwater management on a site plan outside the 100-foot buffer so that they didn't have to file with the commission. And that stormwater system that they had was just a long swale running parallel to the 100-foot buffer so that they, again, wouldn't have to file. And the zoning board approved it, gave them a special permit, and lo and behold, Mr. Shalick subdivides the lot, sells this portion to Mr. Plant, and in so doing nullifies the special permit, which was for the whole site and for the specific use that Mr. Shalick proposed.
Why do they call it a special permit, John?
And in order to be able to do that type of operation in the industrial zone, they needed a special permit and a site plan approval.
Okay.
So they are allowed to do it, but it just needs to have conditions, and the conditions are geared to the certain use that's being proposed by any applicant. So if the applicant changes or the site parameters change, and let's say you try to put 5 pounds of material into a 10-pound bag and it can't hold it, then the special permit becomes invalid because it's not doing what you said it would do.
Right.
So the building inspector did a cease and desist. So we have to look at this as something as if it was brand new, even though it's in operation. And that took quite a bit of discussions with the owner, the applicant, because he felt he was operating already, and why should I have to do these things? Well, during some inspections, I discovered that the lack of any stormwater controls was allowing all the runoff and the leaching out of these mulch piles to run right into the 50-foot buffer, and there was obvious signs that it was going beyond that into the wetland. So I said,
So there was no berm that came around?
nothing.
Nothing.
They didn't even install what was even proposed
Oh, I see.
on
Okay.
the major plan.
All right.
So after a series of discussions with different engineers, the applicant settled on Holmgren, and therefore we have Scott here this evening with the site plan.
Okay.
Previous to this meeting, I had asked that the commission consider letting me hire a 53G to review it, and after reviewing it myself, I felt that, as my report indicates, that it would create some unnecessary delays and extra costs, and if the applicant's engineer is willing to consider some of the suggestions I've made, then we don't have to go that route unless the commission really wants to, or if they object to some of the things that I'm recommending, then I think I would recommend that go to a 53G reviewer and let them thrash it out and argue it instead of your agent and the engineer arguing about it. So my suggestions are that rather than a stoned spillway made of riprap and it's irregular shaped, even though the numbers purport to be accurate, that the elevation of the spillway is to be at elevation 90.0, elevation 90.0. An irregular riprap spillway cannot be possibly constructed that perfect to hit that. So there'll be some irregularities and it won't work the same way as it's modeled in the computer. So I'm recommending a concrete precast or cast constructed in place, a concrete wall weir, which will be shaped in such a way as to control the amount of discharge through that orifice or shaped weir that will control the amount of runoff that's going out. And I'm looking to have the basin enlarged to a certain degree and put some meat between the wall of the basin and the back edge of the basin, and not have it too narrow so that it has some strength to hold what I would consider is going to be saturated conditions for most of the wet times of our year, which it usually runs November through, let's say, May. On a typical year, it varies. And so during those months when it's really wet, you need to not have, where the water's going to be in there for long periods of time, you don't need to have the soil saturated so that it loses its strength and blows out and creates a impact on the buffer. So I'm looking to ask them to consider beefing that up and constructing a very standard but strong outlet structure that has a defined shape to it instead of an irregular shape. And so it's pretty simple suggestions. It's just a matter of, does the applicant, who is already now constricted to a small area, want to possibly lose a little bit more storage of some of the materials that he's stockpiling out there? Because in order to do what I'm suggesting, some of these piles have to be shrunk. And as Mr. Rogers has indicated, it's a fluctuating type of situation anyway. Most contractors' yards, the piles grow and they reduce and they grow again, and so it's not like it's you couldn't have these things a little closer together and still be able to accomplish what I'm looking for. So that is my recommendation, that the plan be modified to incorporate the suggestions, and I've given him a copy of the report so he knows exactly what I'm looking for, and continue to the next meeting. And I would believe that would be sufficient time for him to be able to get the changes made. And they do have an upcoming ZBA meeting that the zoning board has been in contact with me asking how is this progress going on this project, because they're concerned as well. That's it.
Equipment on the site, temporarily there and then taken off, being stored on site, repairs and maintenance happening to equipment on the site or leaving?
No, repairs and maintenance don't really happen on the site. There are, backhoes and stuff that move the piles. from
Oil
one-
changes and that stuff, they're
That
taken off site?
Yeah, that happens also.
They are fueling them there, though.
The
I've
fueling?
seen that, yeah, they're doing fueling. And most of the fueling was done up in this area, but still, I mean, that's why it's important to have this structure.
As part of the order of conditions, I'd make sure that all repairs and maintenance be done off site.
And including fuel.
That there's not gonna be a sediment separator or concrete or pad somewhere to make sure there's no runoff or contamination, looking at the site anyways. I mean, it's all gravel or all porous material.
So it's reasonable to require at least a fueling area? And
Yes.
have some type of containment in that area?
Yeah, what would that be, John? For containment necessarily?
Typically, it's a concrete pad with some type of either cuts made in it to,
Doesn't have to be huge.
no.
No.
And it would have cuts to divert any spills into a certain spot where it can be
Right.
absorbed by material that you have on site to clean it up, and we could ask for that.
Okay.
And another way is to have a berm, a small berm around it, and have it go to a drain and into a tight tank, but I think that's overkill
Yeah.
on something like that.
I do too.
The flow, the area, was that graded when it was done that way? To make the flow go that way, or is that just the natural flow? of that area?
Unfortunately, what happened when they kind of developed the two parcels is they lowered it down a little bit more than they really should have. It should have really been about a foot or two higher than it is currently now.
So they
it's-
made the flow go that way.
Well, it was
A
going
little
that way.
stronger than what it was
Yeah,
originally.
it's not helping it that it's lower than it.
I think you
It
would
should
have made
be.
it go towards the street and had some kind of catch basin or whatever out front there, that way it would go down the street or
Yeah, but it
flow into the.
It slopes from the street all the way back this way.
I understand, but when you were doing it to build it up, to make that.
That would have required fill.
True, but still, I mean, all the flow's going that way.
And as Mr. Rogers indicates, they took down a little lower than maybe they should have, and it's not surprising because if you recall, this was a farm. Do you remember the name of the fellow that owned it?
Was it Carrybrook?
No.
Uh,
Hard.
Yep. And it was thick top and subsoil because it was hayfield farm type stuff, and that probably all disappeared and stockpiled across the street.
Yeah. So we're just looking to get the changes implemented, which is no problem as far as you can see.
It's no problem as far as I'm concerned. I'll talk to the client about it. But
Correct.
I assume you prefer to make
Right.
the changes that
Right.
the agent is recommending versus going out for
Right.
a full
I
review.
don't think we need a 53G, do you?
Not at this point.
No, no.
Right, anybody else, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to continue to our next hearing.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that would be August
I think it's August 1. Or August.
August 1st.
August 1st.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next is 345 South Elm Street. Green cards. We'll read that into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing July 18th, 2017, in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by MJ Costa Associates on behalf of CLM Development LLC to verify a wetland border identification as flagged by the applicant's consultant for 345 South Elm Street. We're open.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before we start, anybody here for South Elm Street? Okay, we don't have to spin it around then.
Okay. For the record, my name is Michael Costa, and I am a registered professional engineer and land surveyor from Mass here representing CLM Development. And we endeavor to see what we're going to work with here after solidifying the wetland. I have read John's report. I can incorporate that into my presentation if that's what you want to do. The wetland line was delineated by Ken Thompson, and his report with the vegetative analysis and the soils that he looked at are in the ANRAD. And that being said, he started here and he went around this whole area and connected it to the street here. There is a culvert that connects this BVW to
Hold on
this
a
BVW.
second. Yes, if anybody's here from South Elm Street, so you don't have to turn around, but South Elm Street touches other streets.
Oh, Lincoln Street as well.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Because, so yes, people from Lincoln Street are here.
Okay, very good. I'll turn it around for you, sir. Sorry about that.
No need to be sorry, but Elm Street does that. South Elm Street touches other streets other than Lincoln Street. Pebbles Lane,
Okay.
Scotland Street.
So, as I was saying, Mr. Thompson delineated these. This is a bordering vegetated wetland, connects back to KT50. KT50 was where he felt that the soils turned hydric. Because in John's report, he mentions that there is a swale that takes drainage off of the street. and from a north, the drainage goes from a northerly to southerly direction. So as part of one of John's comments, what we would propose to do there is clean out any of the trash debris that's been dumped over years. I think there's some slash and so forth, and we would incorporate a drainage pipe under any driveway that would be located along that to be able to convey the water, because there is another cross culvert that comes into that BVW from the other side of Lincoln Street. The small wetland along South Elm, there is an old stone type box culvert there that comes across, and then fellow across the street came out and he told us that the pipe extends down beyond his property and discharges 100 or 150 feet from the road.
On the other side?
On the other side of South Elm, the south side of it. Thompson also delineated the Russo's greenhouse site, and he could, that's why there's two KT1s, because he started KT1 and went and extended it the other way, so he felt that he should put another KT1 and extended it through KT25. He did note that there was a small ponding area to the rear, and it is like fenced off where it might have been for cattle or something like that, but John's comment there is that it could very well be a vernal pool, and if it is a vernal pool, and even if it isn't a vernal pool, we would still would provide the 50-foot buffer around it as protection. That being said, there is, I guess, some thoughts about KT 100 going 90 feet up South Elm Street. I'm not prepared to, find a place to flag there, so
Yeah.
I only located them. So, I will call up Ken on my way after the meeting and tell him that he needs to, we need to rectify that. Basically, we're just, and I do believe, I think John is absolutely right, that between the flags in the front on South Elm Street, there's some history, I guess, with these old houses there, and it looks to me that it was either an old driveway or the roadway did go across there. And because they didn't build it up like that, and plus put in a box culvert just in the old days, just because they had nothing better to do. So we're here this evening to, address naturally these items here, and to make sure that the commission and its consultant are satisfied with the job that the botanist has done as far as the flagging, and that it is in fact the DVW line.
John?
Mr. Koska has addressed in his presentation the comments I provided him just before the meeting started, and so that sounds satisfactory to me, and I am more than happy to discuss that additional area easterly of KT 100 on the edge of South Elm Street with his botanist, and if it's in fact not a wetland, then that's fine, but I did see wetland plants in there, and it's not a very wide area, it's a very small area, but it needs to be looked at, and I think it's going to be easily resolved one way or another, so I don't anticipate that it would run beyond the next meeting.
And I have not done topography out there, so once I do the topography and it becomes evident which way the water is flowing, actually, I didn't see very many, if any, drainage structures, and they just paved Lincoln Street. So, I agree that if there isn't any drainage structures and there's naturally drainage that's gonna go down Lincoln Street, we certainly don't want to impede it. So we will pay close attention to that with any notice of intents that come before this commission, or any plans that go to the Board of Health or to the building inspector and so forth, to make sure that you know, these comments that are on here are in fact addressed, and so that we don't create a problem out there.
So, we're here tonight really just to look at the delineation, and the issues are around KT 100, and get some comments on KT 71 to 74, and you're going out there anyway, right? So, not much more tonight that.
My question is, what time of the year was this flagged?
I think there should be a report in your package, and it should have the date that the botanist went out there. But it wasn't too long ago.
Springtime, summertime?
It's been moving along fairly rapidly, so, any cover sheet on that, right there. Maybe it says, and maybe the first two paragraphs will use there.
May 1st.
Naturally. Probably wouldn't be able to walk back there in February. It'd be waist deep in water.
Well, we're really looking at delineation.
Yeah, we're just setting where the wetland line is.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions? Anybody in the audience, questions, comments?
Yes, I'd like to know what he's talking about, where the rear is, where there might be a cow pond.
Right here. Sorry.
Really? Because there's a big fat culvert that runs across South Elm Street that runs all the time, so that can't be a cow pond.
Oh, that is one I mentioned, is the one that goes across the street here. I'll show that on the
So
plan.
it comes off of that, does not come off of that wet section right there? I mean, in the rear of that
This-
wet section?
There seems to be what I saw, a culvert in this area that goes from this side of Lincoln Street, feeds this.
Yes.
There's a small intermittent stream that comes down in here, and you get to a stone box culvert here.
Yes.
That goes underneath that elevated roadway, let's call it, that might have been
Okay.
built, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago. Goes into a culvert here that goes across the street. I didn't see any other culverts.
So then if you move up the street another, I don't know, 300 yards.
Okay, from this point here?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
300 yards, and give it 300
Alright,
yards.
300 yards is 900 feet. From this stone bound up there, I got 521, so we would be off the property by about 400 feet.
Okay, so, but there is a big fat river that runs all along through there. It's not no cow pond.
Oh, yes, there is a
So
perennial.
that
Right, but
water
that's
moves.
further off the property,
Right.
that's
Right.
not on.
It was off the property, but the water still moves. Even though it comes down into where your green lines are, that water all still moves.
Yeah, that would be subject to the Rivers Act, if we would.
I mean,
deal
it might
with
get
that
stagnant
property.
down in our corner here of, what, it's called Cochesset, that corner where those three streets come, that Cochesset area. So it might come to a slow trickle and go through those two culvert tubes, but the water still is coming off of that and it still flows.
Yep, it seems like everything that I saw from our site flows
It does.
in a southeasterly direction here. And then the hill right about where this existing building is, there's no dilapidated barn there. It goes in a south to north direction into this wetland here. Now, from where this, it's a named perennial stream is, I don't have any clue where it is, but I can guarantee you this, it's over 200 feet from any property line that we're dealing with here.
Okay, but the water comes off of there, like you said, it gets
Absolutely.
stagnant in the area, it gets,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely, it does.
So
come
we
off.
throw a few more stones into that area, it's gotta go somewhere.
If I threw a few more stones in this area here, the
Yeah.
only one that it would affect is where discharges behind those houses along.
Really, you don't, if you threw a stone there, you don't think it would back up the other way across the other culvert tube, across Lincoln Street? You don't think it's gonna back up
No,
there?
we don't-
Especially after they throw in, what's it called, light gate or stone gate or, stone hit, what's that one going off the other end of the street there?
Oh,
Lamp post?
Lamp post, boom. Let's throw a dam in there, and let's throw a few more stones in that swamp. And thank you for mentioning the fact that the older homes would be affected, because they would be. The older homes would be affected, kind of like mine, 147 years old. So throw some more stones into that little wet layer, and guess what? Your older places Your historical places crumble, fall down, boom.
All right, so we're looking at the wetland line only on this property.
What will happen after this is they'll come in with individual development plans,
Then
and
the-
you'll be notified again to come in and take a look at it.
Of course, yes. So I'm in.
Whereabouts do you live?
175 Lincoln Street.
175, so if this is the first greenhouse is here, whereabouts are you in respect to that?
Right across the street.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
The answer is Steve.
we can continue this to the next one. That'd be enough time for John to meet with.
Yeah, I'm gonna get right on, because it seems always timing is of the essence.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to continue.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved, we'll continue to the first.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I think everybody here is for the continued public hearing for 161 Ash Street. Good.
That was continued at the first meeting in August. Or was it September? I keep forgetting that this is July. August. Here I am already making a mistake.
There's a report that goes with it if you want
No, I
that.
forgot about August and a lot of things I don't know what one.
And we do have enough if you want your own, if you want to share, that's fine too.
Great. Okay.
All right, we will reopen 161 Ash Street.
Good evening, Greg Driscoll, Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, here representing Alan Doty for 161 Ash Street. Go through the changes. Okay. So since the last meeting, we heard all the comments, we made a bunch of changes to the plans. Overall, we heard that the Conservation Commission didn't want the land donation and the neighbors didn't want the walking path. So therefore, we went ahead and increased the size of these lots, brought them all the way back to the back lot line here, and decreased the size of lot 5. And the lot for 161 got a little bit bigger as well. All right. So, at the last meeting, the question stated they wouldn't approve any new construction with approaches into the 50-foot no-touch buffer. So therefore, we revised the plans to remove the grading and all the work within the 50-foot buffer. This grading work over here, now we have a boulder wall on the 50-foot buffer of that section. And we removed the driveway from this side, to lot 3, and moved it over onto the other side of the house on 121 Ash Street. So we have the two driveways going down parallel to each other. And we configured the lot as well to get, so this is on the lot for lot 3, right here. That's a 23-foot wide strip with the driveway up to the house for lot 3.
Squeezed it right in.
Yep. Between there and the 50-foot no touch on the other side, we'll be able to get the two driveways in, some grading, a little bit of space between the driveways as well.
Both driveways the same width?
Yes, sir. 12 feet. Mr. Delano had mentioned his report at the last meeting regarding the overland flow from 121 Ash Street, and mostly heading in this direction, how that driveway would impede the flow. So now that that driveway's gone, everything over on this side will continue to drain the way it currently does. He also mentioned raising these driveways on the northerly side of 121 Ash Street and adding some cross culverts to make sure that we maintain overland flow for the house at 121 Ash Street. We also found that in this area right here, there's a spot grade that we took that's kind of a low point. So this area probably does pond and get wet because there's a little bit of a high point in between here and the wetland. So with this, putting these culverts through here, and then what we're asking is to do a little bit of work within the 50 foot in order to maintain the drainage for lot 121. So proposing small 2-3 foot wide swale, going in with a small machine to just kind of create a little bit of a swale from the end of those pipes towards the wetland, towards wetland flag C114, C14, sorry.
Is that ponding now without anything there?
Correct. So we have a low spot grade somewhere in here, and a higher spot grade here, so this is kind of a low localized lower, and this will help give some relief to this guy's front yard here at 121. And then we have another cross culverts up a little further, which will siphon off some of the runoff before it gets down to the low point.
Which way are the driveways pitched to the road and back? Or is it, they pitched off to the side for the water to?
Yeah, they're pitched more towards the middle, and that area in the middle between the two driveways kind of swells out this way and around this house on lot 2.
So it comes back to the houses, the new
Yeah,
ones?
right along beside them to the existing grades back there. Towards the
What's going on between the two driveways?
it's gonna be a grass strip.
The grass, what's the width? Pretty small, right?
I think it's like 8 feet.
It is that much? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it says on the plan, 8 foot wide grass strip between the driveways.
Oh, I see the scale, yeah. That's about right. 60 foot to the inch. Or 30 feet, yeah.
John, do you have any questions, comments?
As he pointed out, they addressed almost everything that was raised at the meetings by the abutters. I'll take it one lot at a time. Lot number 1, which is adjacent to the land of Brian and Amy, is it Boucher? Did I say it right? They've eliminated the walking path, and instead there's a slight swale to take the water that might come off the proposed driveway towards Brian and Amy's house. And I'm suggesting that the contour sorry, let me put my glasses on here. 51 be extended to make sure that it takes that water so it doesn't puddle up in the backyard of Brian and Amy near their shed that they have there, so that it's a definite positive direction that the water needs to go in. I also pointed out that they're proposing a boulder or landscaping alternative block retaining wall to prevent any of the grading from encroaching into the 50-foot buffer. And the note indicates that it's to be designed by a structural engineer. And what we have found, such as with the funeral home site, when the engineer said that, we wrote it into the order of conditions that that had to be approved by the commission before any construction could start. And they went out, got a qualified engineer that designs these types of retaining walls. They proposed a excellent design, and they constructed it, and it went in just the way it was supposed to. And so I'm recommending that if the commission approves the order of conditions for lot 1, that be one of the conditions of requirement. And then the final comment I have is that we would like to see the PVC pipes marking the 50-foot buffer restricted conservation area shown on the plan, so that the developer will be able to actually install them where they're proposed to be. And the only question I have for the commission, and I didn't put it in the report, but typically on new development, you want to have a 50-foot conservation easement for the buffer. And I know we're gonna ask to have the conservation signs put up, but for example, up on Woodrow Lane Way, I think it's Woodrow Lane, off of
Brooks Place.
Brooks Place, we have both the signs and the conservation easement recorded. So we could ask that that be one of the order conditions, and all they have to do is take their plan, create an exhibit that can be attached to the conservation easement, and it get recorded, so they don't actually have to redo their plan. Or if you, have you done your plan with the planning board yet to show these new lot configurations?
Or on the agenda for mine.
You what?
We're on the agenda for
Okay.
mine.
So rather than having to change the plan again, you know, we can do it with an exhibit. So if that's what the commission would like, we can incorporate that in the order conditions. And that protects it so that if for some reason the new owners do happen to extend their yard back into the 50-foot buffer, we
I
have
don't have to deal with like we did up off of Walnut Street with issues.
Right, yep,
I would take that suggestion.
all right.
Where are
Your
we
other
on the
two?
footpath, John?
That's gone.
Gone?
Yep, there won't be any easement over it or any use of it.
Some feedback from the neighbors we got after the last meetings, they weren't in favor of the passive recreation on the backland. So.
Where was it originally supposed to enter?
Right,
Alongside the driveway.
Right here.
the lot one.
Right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, on the other two lots, John?
Same comment about the PVC pipes and conservation, and now, since we've talked about a conservation easement on the 50-foot buffer. Except for where it encroaches, the 50-foot buffer encroaches onto Robert and Audrey's land at 121. We can't put the easement onto his
Right.
land, but we can come up to the lot line or wherever the 50-foot buffer is.
Any commissioners, any other questions?
Mm-mm.
Before I, anybody in the, oh,
What about the wall along the driveway?
That needs to be, condition says that no building permit will be signed off by conservation until a designed and approved wall is submitted.
So it'd be the same thing for over there.
Yeah.
anybody in the audience, questions?
Sure. On the driveway, you're talking about it, which way does it pitch from where the housing lots are? It pitches back towards Ash Street, right? The driveway? But you said that was high land up there, so it would naturally come down to Ash, right? Both driveways?
You talking lot
The-
one
A
or
certain portion it'll
Lots
go
2
back
and
down.
3.
2 and 3?
It starts roughly, what, 53, 54 at the road?
52 at the road, so 53.
53.
54. So this section will go.
And it kind of heads back between the two. It looks like 53 back at the houses. So the driveway's roughly at 53 the whole distance.
So typically, the area on the two driveways for lot 2 and 3, if you'll notice the contour number 53, that's just in from Ash Street, and it runs along the driveway, and then you see the 53 cross pretty much to the rear of the house at 121 Ash Street. So it's like a rectangular box.
Mm-hmm.
Well, typically in between those two, it's either a high point or a low point that the engineer can design. And so that would, whether it was a high point or a low point, it would divert the water towards the wetlands off the driveway.
So which way does the driveways pitch? Towards the street?
Starts at the street, rises up, and then it will either slump down a half a foot or come up an additional half a foot. So that means that from that point back to Ash Street, it would flow to Ash Street. And then from that point towards the houses, it would all go the other way.
So the two driveways are now just like big gutters sending all the water to Ash.
No.
Only the portion that it
Just a
sits there, only the portion that's, would land on that driveway. And then the rest of it would all,
So they all run off and come into the culvert to go through the easement?
underneath the
The
road, and
easement, and then what's gonna happen to all the water from there?
continues to flow where it does now.
You guys gonna clean it and everything? You gonna make sure that that water flows through there nice and easy? And what's the table, what's the water table for the height? More
The,
than 10 inches or more than 12 inches on the height? You
The-
can't put more water to us. It's a state law that you can't do that. Take
the,
more water from across the street and put it over to us. Can't
So-
do it.
so all I can address is that the commission will not be cleaning it because it, we're not set up
Okay,
to do
so what
that.
if they put in, say, a 12-inch or 14-inch pipe all the way to the back? Culvert all that water over and just, instead of us guys trying to keep the thing clean all the time. In the winter's the worst because it's all frozen. Everything freezes up. And what happens, the water from there comes across the road, gets all blocked up in all that slushy stuff, and it just comes to us like crazy. And our pumps are running.
Are you talking about
108
what we
and
talked
100.
about before,
100
right?
and 108.
Across the street, your side of the street?
Yes,
Right. So is the owner of that lot here?
right here, right behind you. He's the owner.
So we did talk, I don't know if we were here last week, after the meeting.
He didn't know about it.
So we talked to the neighbors last week, and we've talked to Mr. Doty, and we don't have a problem with digging a swale, but we need your permission to do it, or to bury a pipe there, so that the water would even be willing to go, until it reached daylight. I don't know how long that would, what do you think would be, 100 feet?
Well, we're 100 feet easy,
Not to the river, towards the river.
No, towards the river, say down to the back of the Apovites.
Okay.
To the Apovites, and then let it flow from there to the swamp.
Because what happens, I don't know if you've been over to look at that pipe, but the top of that pipe is just barely visible above the ground.
Yeah, well, we've, I'm sorry to say, but we've done that on purpose. That was put in without an easement, that was put in years ago, somebody just stuck it in there, that's all. So now the problem is, these new kids bought the property.
Right.
Now it's all gonna go in their line.
Right.
So,
So we did talk about that last week, because, something that's open for discussion.
We have those two pipes going under the driveways. I'm on 121. Is there gonna be any type of culvert on that, right on that line of my property? Are those pipes just gonna be sitting on the road?
Literally sitting at the grade, as an inlet for the water coming out of your property, the way through there.
So the water could go either way.
Considering they're pitched
Well,
going.
they're pitched going that in this direction. And we can come to agreement to clean this pipe out across the street here. That'll just help me as well, even more. If we can get that a little better.
who's coming? On this side? You're talking about going over on your side of the road? Think you're gonna put a
Is-
culvert in on that side?
No,
Is
clean
this
it.
culvert?
No, I'm saying if we do the work over here to clean this out, this all goes into this wetland system here, and it eventually
He's
flows
at the
out
other
to the
side.
pipe.
Oh, it's gonna be on the
He's where
side.
you are, not me. I'm on this side,
Pipe that goes over here.
Mm-hmm.
Which one's yours?
130.
So you're-
30, yeah, I'm sorry.
Would you be burying that pipe if you were to extend that all the way back? You'd be burying it.
Yeah,
Would you be doing the landscaping as well?
it would be loaned and Steve.
Yeah, we'd have to come some kind of.
Yeah, it would come to that.
Okay, just make sure.
Just
Here, right.
the easiest way would be swale, the bank, just, take it out. But if you want it to be upgraded like that, there'd be some back and forth between something and the building.
But now, you also got how much water flow is gonna be coming through
Yeah,
it.
that's,
When it rages during the spring, and it
It's gonna
erodes,
extend- If it extends past this house,
But if it
towards the
extends-
river, then it's gonna help this area right here in this front yard that's getting all soggy and clogged up and
Yeah, well,
everything.
it's gonna back up on, it'll back up on the other side, on the new house side.
It's actually the back of the house that's more of a problem as far as water settling anyway.
That's
Right at Venom.
It's wet.
Did you-
Pond in your backyard, your backyard,
Yeah.
and they run just on the other side, so all your water's gonna go to them in that backyard.
Did you guys buy the house lot yet, or
Yes.
everything's all set? You bought
Everything's all-
everything?
Yep.
So you do realize where you're buying?
No, they're across the
Well,
street.
I'm well aware.
Oh, you're across the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah,
So you're not part of the new houses?
no,
No.
They're-
they're
they're
the
108.
old Perry
So
house.
anybody here?
Perry houses.
Okay, no, so nobody's here that bought a house lot? Okay,
They
okay.
bought the old Perry house at 108.
okay. Have you moved in?
Not yet.
Okay,
No.
but you do know where you have bought?
I'm well aware of what
Okay.
I purchased. We're just, you
John?
know,
It was his grandmother.
I was
Okay.
just gonna say that the commission can't require them to do what they've offered to do and what the abutters have talked about doing on the other side of the street. The commission can't make them do that, but I think it was nice to see that they were trying to help out you people and offer to do that. Now, obviously, it's gonna benefit them as well, but we can't put that in the order, so that's why we kind of just stayed out of the discussion. But obviously, if that's something that you can work together, we're not gonna stand in your way.
But a lot of this that you're talking about is all in theory. You know, we've asked before if you guys were out there to actually see how much water is across that street during the spring.
During the spring.
You know,
when
you
the
guys
floods
haven't
are
been
here.
out there for every one of the seasons. You've only been there for one time. So you don't really know what's going on year-round with that property. Sure, right now it's probably dried up more, but again, come spring, you guys, so again, all this stuff is in theory, and all I see is two driveways that are gonna run water, you know, right across. I mean, you get 50 feet. I mean, you're talking about them being pitched, and everything, but you're filling in areas to divert things, and you're changing the flows of everything, and as of right now, you have no idea which way it's gonna go.
Well, we do, but they are allowed to put in driveways. They are allowed, if it was a subdivision road, there would be required drainage in the driveway, or in the roadway, let's say. But there is nothing in the regulations or in the town bylaw to require catch basins in a driveway. So we can only hold them to a certain level of standard. And the standard is that if they're not encroaching in the 50-foot buffer and they're not filling wetlands,
You said they were filling the wetlands because they're putting in a raised driveway.
they're not filling the wetlands, they're
That's
filling,
wetland.
it may be
Wet.
wet in the spring,
It's wet right now, go walk on it. Good luck.
but it's not a wetland.
So what,
Wetlands are
Well,
determined by vegetation and soils. So their botanists determine where the line was, and it's at least more than 50 feet away from these driveways. So using the DEP guidelines and their standards for determining where wetlands are, this is not a wetland. It is just like the farmer on 106 East Center Street. He has a difficult time in the spring farming there because the soils are wet, but it's not a wetland. So
That's right, but we open the town river, and it all flows back to us again to dry their property up, right?
does,
You're talking about the Anderson farm? I'm
No,
sorry.
this is down on 106.
on
Further
106,
down.
the new
Further down.
vegetable stand
Down by
down.
True
Well, I know his
Peace.
dad likes to get that stuff moving too, all that water, when the spring comes, right? Because of the water table.
No, it was just funny because I drove down Ash Street the other day. With all the new houses and the old houses, all you do is see mounds.
Mm-hmm.
In the front yard's mounds, so
Mhm.
the old homes that have been there, they filled in.
Yeah.
So you vaulted the water back in the day. The
No,
new homes have been filled in
Yeah.
because they can, it's not wetlands on one side really as much. So now these houses being put in, they're doing the same thing you guys
Right,
did.
we understand that, but they're still
But it's
pushing
even-
the water over across.
But you
Which,
gotta realize-
in between Bobby's property, my property, his property,
Yeah.
across the thing.
But you gotta
have
realize
always
when
been the same.
those houses that you guys have had in,
His
haven't
house
been there
has
all
been
the
there
same
for
time.
many, many
They've
moons.
they've all been,
They've all been there for many,
placed
many
there over the
moons, these
years.
houses.
But the mounds are out in the front where you're
Right.
talking about, they're
True.
not in the back where they're wet, they were
Right.
just put out in the front.
but this isn't wetland out back though.
100-year-old buffer, yeah, I mean, 100-year-old flood line is out
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, it's difficult to understand, but it's just, I went down the road just,
There's a lot
and
more
it's
wetlands.
just, everything's all
in this
mounded up,
direction.
everything's all mounded up, it's
But
just,
the
in order to be able
backyards
to
aren't
put,
all mounded up.
I understand that, but in order to have your house put there, you had to have some
Well, I
built in
planted
for the,
7,000 yards in the front yard to put my septic
Septic
system
system
in,
in.
because I
Septic.
couldn't get it perked in the back.
now if you couldn't put the septic system in, you couldn't
Alright,
build
so
it.
now what's gonna happen with these folks, with their house, because now, say down the road, they wanna do something, they wanna add, they wanna put.
They
you know,
can't,
There's,
they can't add.
you know, if you're gonna run water right through their backyard.
Which
then
is
that's-
already there, they're just directing the flow and helping it drain
Trying to help
faster,
out. We
clearer.
don't have to do it.
They can't put any more in, once these are done, they're done, they can't add it, any more to the house.
No, 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 not
The new
The new house,
Not
the
the
house
new
that's over
house.
here, if they wanna put an addition.
I'm talking about, you guys wanna run the culvert pipe across the street and run the water through Donnie's yard and Matt's yard.
But we don't
Now,
want to.
when that overly saturates those yards,
We don't wanna do it, we're just taking
Offering
what you
to.
people are asking us to do, or telling you what your problem is, we're trying to help you out, we don't have to do it if you don't want to. We don't have to do that at all.
It's draining that way anyways, you're just
Right,
making
right.
it flow a little
Just
bit
trying
better.
to channelize it and
Yeah.
help you
because
out.
it could jeopardize his septic.
Do I have
down the
ownership
road.
of that pipe? Can I, what if I cement the pipe? Do I own that pipe? It's on my
Yeah, but
property.
if you don't wanna do it, we won't do it. I mean, if you're gonna talk about cementing the pipe, then we won't waste our time to do it.
I'm just asking a question.
Let's back up to not even discuss about putting in a pipe. Let's say what is there. There's, I think it was mentioned just a little bit earlier that that the pipe that goes under Ash Street is somewhat buried.
It's about a 9-inch pipe that they put in the.
And if I remember, the
50s.
quote was done on purpose, but because there was no easements or nothing written, many of the drain pipes in this town were put in so long ago without benefit of a written document.
Mhm.
And over time, a right develops by the town to continue the use of letting drainage go where it is going, even if there wasn't this legal document written and recorded at the registry. And it's called either a right by necessity or a prescriptive right by the town.
Right.
And it stands up in court when challenged. So the fact that this is doing this right now and part of the pipe is plugged on purpose, from what I heard, these gentlemen on behalf of their client, the applicant, seem to have heard that there's this problem and are willing to extend the pipe so that it's just not draining on the other side of the road and creating an extra mess for the new owners. They want to run a pipe, be some distance away from the road so that it's not a nuisance in their yard. We can't make them do that because the right to drain there already exists for the town.
Right, I understand that, but you can't put more water, it's against the law to take water from somewhere else and put it on somebody's property. You
So,
can't do it.
under the standards of the Massachusetts wetlands,
Right.
the DEP does not require an applicant for a single-family home who's putting in a house, a driveway, and a septic system and a lawn to create retention and detention basins that a developer of a subdivision road and all the lots that come with it would have to do. So it's just not a standard that's required. You can't enforce it. If you do, you're jeopardizing.
If it's a single house,
you're-
yes, you're putting in these great big houses over there.
But they're
These
each,
big driveways. and-
they're each a single-family house, and under the Wetland Protection Act, it's not considered a development, it's only a one single-family development. So we can't hold them to the standards of road construction and that kind of stormwater management that you can for a subdivision. So in order to not expose the town to liability from legal challenges by people who have a right to develop their land, we have to be reasonable about how we enforce the regulations and what we require from people. And as you heard a little earlier, the commission works with a applicant's engineer and says, if you will do these things, most likely it will be approved. Well, we're asking for some additional things that are not necessarily in the regulations, but asking them to voluntarily do some things to address the concerns. If they said no, then we would say, okay, we're gonna have a third party review this and ask you to pay for that and see if they agree with the agent or they disagree with the agent. And they don't want to go through that process, so they voluntarily, quote unquote, comply with what we're looking for. So we can ask for a few things, and they apparently have done that. They've moved the driveway. They didn't have to move the driveway.
Right.
But they moved the driveway over to try to address, Robert, is it, again?
Yeah, Bob.
His concerns, he and his wife's. Again, we can do some things, and we can't do some things. Or if we did do them and it was challenged in court and cost the taxpayers money for town council to try to defend the actions of the commission, then it affects all the taxpayers because the legal fund goes up and you're paying for that out of your taxes. So we're trying not to do that. We're trying to get the best we can for the neighborhood, still allowing a person who owns the property to do what they have a right to do, which is to develop it, and we can only hold them to certain standards. So I understand concerns of how a driveway might contribute a little bit more water to Ash Street, but that's in DEP's view and in engineering practice view is acceptable. If it starts to create some issues, then the town highway department might have to put in another drain or something. But we don't foresee that to rise to that level to require the town to put in a drain. So if the pipe under Ash Street is cleaned out, which the highway department has a right to go in and do if they know about it, and there are places that either an abutter has alerted them to, or in my inspections around town have noticed the problem. I've asked them to clean out pipes, so they've done it. So they could have cleaned that pipe out and created some additional flow through there.
Okay, we try to get the pipe from House 80, where there's a catch basin there, that they put in years ago again, that goes down to the river that's been clogged for probably 20 years. And we've gone through Sylvester, we've gone through all the guys, you know, on the highway, Tommy, all of them. You can never get it done because it's too far of an extension.
Too
So
far
now
what?
that's
I'm
blocked.
sorry?
It's too far of an extension to try to get down in there to clean the pipe.
Oh, I see.
Because the pipe goes for, you know, probably 800 feet, I would say.
Yeah, you do need special equipment when it gets that long.
And like I say, we've been trying for years and years and years to get that alleviated. So that it won't, you know, the catch basin just chock full and then it, you know, then you're running through it with the cars and splashing people and, you know, the whole thing. Just,
Are you talking about the catch basin at Herrick's?
yeah.
The town did not put that in, Brad did.
Oh, Brad put it in?
Yeah. So it's not,
That's
not
an
town
easement
property.
that's an easement didn't go through me.
No.
That's another one,
I wanna hear that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on modeling? When you develop these house lots, these in particular, and you're figuring your grading, your soils, and your runoff, are you using modeling software to determine how much runoff is going to occur so that you can come up with really good estimates of
Stormwater
things?
runoff?
Yes, exactly. Like
for
the folks
development.
concerned off the driveway, do you know based on your modeling, how much could come off that driveway?
Right, what the table would be.
Well, for a subdivision where we're creating roads.
Yes.
and Detention basins and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, we use that modeling software and we come up with the drainage reports and everything. But for projects like this, where there's 3 single-family lots, we don't, that's not a requirement, so we don't do a drainage report for that.
So you use your best engineering practice
Yep.
without modeling to come up with the best solution for what you've got there.
And that's acceptable to DEP.
Right.
It's like the same with what, roof runoff too? So that you're doing a big building, and now you're doing houses, you just kinda gotta guesstimate.
Yep.
So isn't it by state law that you can't take and put more water into another person's property, even though they build on that side?
And again, I'll go back to what DEP is set up as a policy. They're looking at the volume of runoff from a single-family home, a lawn, and driveway as being so insignificant to the overall impact on a wetland that by the time it gets into the wetland and finds its way through the wetland, because it's not like this, it takes a long time to flow through, that the overall impact to the wetland is so de minimis in terms of its impact that that they don't require anything more than that, and that's why they made that assessment in their studies before they developed these wetland regulations. When they started looking at subdivisions and roadways, they felt that the number of lots that are all being built at the same time and the amount of impervious area being created creates such a volume of runoff and a rate that's so much faster than the natural that they needed to develop standards. So they developed stormwater regulations that require detention basins and infiltration and to slow water and to disperse it so that it doesn't create these impacts. Everything else, they felt it's not that significant, and yes, it will get there. It will be more water than it was yesterday before any houses were built, but the overall length of time it takes to get through the system is so long that you probably won't ever notice anything. It'd be like spitting in a pail of water. You don't notice how much the level rises, and yet there is more in there. That's all I can use for an example of how to explain it to you.
Can you point out on the plan where that real low area is before it goes into that culvert? As opposed, it's right up near those driveways.
Which color? We're talking the
No,
the
on
new
the other
color?
side.
Over here?
Yeah, it's.
Right below street.
Yep. And there's a head wall right there, and there's a pipe.
It's almost directly where the property line is, where it's divided.
Yep,
Yeah.
right from that property.
Anybody else have any other questions, comments?
I'm still just concerned about, you make mention that he has the right to develop his property, he has the right to do all this and on, and you're all pro for this guy, but you don't seem to be listening to, what about us protecting our property?
We've got them to
I mean,
move the driveway to the other side, which
Yeah, and
stops the
driveways are
island from being
directly
created.
in front
which
of
would
my
have-
property and Matt's, I mean,
Two of them,
they're
I
right
mean,
in
he's-
front of our driveway.
He's putting
So-
culverts in to help drain across the driveway and keep the flow from.
But you're taking
ponding.
away not the land that was there for absorption.
As long as he's
Putting in-
outside of the 50 foot, under DEP regulations, we cannot require any more of him than he's already done. If he was in our 50 foot or doing work in the 50 foot, we could require other things as compensation, but he's kept the whole entire project except for that little swale area outside of the 50 foot, which is outside of our jurisdiction to make any additional requirements of him.
So just for the record then, when all this goes south and things start to happen, who do we go to? So I'm asking the board that when things aren't right and there's extra water, there's all problems, whatever
The water's coming onto
problems-
Ash
Civil
Street, it's gonna be
action,
more
wouldn't it be some kind of
highway
civil
department,
action?
culverts and catch
Yeah.
basins.
That's one.
Yeah.
So
It'd be a
it
civil
gets-
matter.
So the highway department now is gonna be
They might have
the
to put
fall
another,
guy.
Another
For all.
they might
catch
have to put
basin
a
or
catch
culvert.
basin in for it.
So that's it, bottom line.
Well, we have, we have a set of big book of rules that we go by, and
Yeah.
that's our
All right,
jurisdiction.
that's why I asked, I wanna know
Yeah.
who, when it
Yeah.
goes bad, I wanna know who to go to and get the right answers, because obviously I'm not getting the answer, you know, you
Well,
guys are all shoving it off
they're
the
coming in
highway
front of
department
us
now.
and he's following the rules.
What's that?
Right now, they're coming in front of us and they're following the rules to what we
As far as
want.
our jurisdiction.
Is ours, yeah.
Alright,
So what's the next board we go to?
They'll have to be in front of the planning board tomorrow night, is it? They're meeting with the planning board, which you probably all have gotten notification for?
no,
They
not
didn't?
yet.
Oh,
It's
that's
just-
right. 'Cause
We never got
Yeah.
anything.
It's a,
Yeah, it's an A and R, so we don't need to send out
Right.
notification.
it's not a subdivision. A subdivision, you'd get a notification.
These are all single
What
lots.
time's the meeting tomorrow?
7:30, I think?
What's this meeting?
Is it posted?
It needs to be posted, so if you,
Check in the hallway, it would be posted out there.
and if you're on a
But that would
computer.
be just a Form A, it isn't, it wouldn't be a subdivision.
Right.
Right, correct.
So if you're on a computer, you can check the town calendar, and it always has the agenda for whatever meetings that night.
I'll entertain a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Motion to continue?
Second.
Move in second, all in favor?
Aye.
It would be to the first,
Just,
just to meet the items that John gave on the punch list.
make those conditions of approval, or?
They're very small.
Accept
You don't have to come to the next meeting.
Yeah, as long as you just submit the plan with the changes on it, we can have it.
All right, so we won't close it until we get that, but, because it is a minor change, but these people should have the right to come and see us vote and close the meeting and know when we're gonna issue it and that kind of thing.
So you don't feel comfortable doing it as a condition of approval, you'd rather see the plans?
We would have to meet.
What he's asking is, would the commission
To
entertain
close
the
it, then
idea?
just make it part of the order of condition.
Yeah.
Condition of.
There's only 2 items, right? Making sure that the wall,
The contour, the PVC pipe locations, and the easement restrictions on the plan. I'd like to see the verbiage on the plan before I actually close the hearing. So, I have a motion and a second to continue to the next hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Won't take long, but
Nope. All right.
We make sure that they're fixed up.
Yep.
Yep.
Especially after the problems we had on Walnut Street.
yeah, that was all the. All right.
All right. We have a bunch of applicants requesting continuances. Belmont Street. 0 Belmont Street. They have requested continuance to our next meeting.
Item 8.
How you doing? Well,
So you
Yep.
need a motion to continue
I'll entertain a motion to continue.
8-1. I'll make that motion.
I'll
I'll
second it.
second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We have 252 Pleasant Street. John's is
Which item is that? 9? No.
6, I think.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
That's number 6. And they want to continue till
They
September
do.
5th.
You too.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to continue that till September 5th.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Moved. We have 5 Manley Street. Notice of intent, wanted to be continued till the 1st.
8-1, I'll make a motion to continue to 8-1.
I'll second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And we have the Lamppost Estates, which is 9.
That's to the
And then we have
first.
Luke Estates also, which is by the same engineer. And actually, both of those want to be continued till the 1st.
All of Luke Estates.
Yep.
We have to do them individually.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to continue Lamppost Estates to the 1st.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Move. And we have Luke Estates. And entertain a motion to continue to the 1st.
Motion to continue to the 1st.
Second.
Moving second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Moved. And I think we have an informal discussion. Which I assume is what this is here for. Which is for a request to extend an order of conditions that's set to expire in August.
Who's that, who's that for?
457 South Main Street, your favorite location, Mr. Henry. No, this really, the applicant has actually been very fervent about getting everything wrapped up. I've been monitoring it, but there's just too many illnesses on my end that really.
So you've been holding them back.
I actually have, I gotta confess. Okay, that's the truth. That is the truth. But things are getting back into men, physical, so.
This is the property if
Looks like he's
anybody
doing a lot
needs
of work
to
to
refresh them.
Yeah, trying to clean
Yeah.
things up, really. He has been.
This is the one that they had
He called me
developed
last
back
week,
to
he
here,
said,
and then this
listen,
hadn't
I
been done.
can't, if you can't do anything, move it along, then I gotta get somebody else. And I just really feel bad. It's just, I've got too many physical issues, but.
Old age.
Jeez, you shouldn't say that.
Don't say that, he's still
But
younger
it is.
than I am.
You know?
Oh, I'm still younger though.
Yeah. Well, you are, by light years. So,
Thank you.
I wanted to show the commission, I don't know if you're gonna, don't mind sharing that.
Thank you, sir.
So what's happened is, they have really been doing a nice clean operation there. And, every time I talk to, John, and the assessors and collector, he tells me he loves that of a location. They always paying their tax bill on time. And, doing a very good job. So what I've done is I surveyed the property just to get a good handle on what, and I do have a handle on what's going on. So what we'd like to do, so that we can actually wrap up the order of conditions. If I may go back a little bit, this property actually used to be farmed. And you know that, Lee. And before they changed the ownership and then of course left it dormant. And so naturally the wetlands were the farmed area. This was all farmed. I've got historical records for that. And obviously reverted. So he's not questioning. I'm not here to argue whether it's whatnot. That's not the point. But just so you get a historical perspective. Now, what I've done is the area that I've shaded, highlighted in kind of light green, right in here, that looks like almost like my rendition of a fairway on a golf course. Okay, is the area that the plant, you've got a very, very invasive vegetation overcrowding the property. And quite honestly, for the type of businesses that they're running there, all their scrub growth covers the back building, if you will. And then of the area that I've kind of highlighted in rubble rendition to the rear of the rear building is basically where we want to level out and put a gravel base. Years ago, if you will recall, he had tried to get a permission to cross the stream and go to the upland area over on the west side. But he was not successful with the ZBA because that is residential and they didn't want any industrial use being mixed with the residential. So he's not looking to do that anymore. That land will remain dormant, if you will. And so what we would like to do is that area again that they were highlighted in light green, is what we want to do is basically make that a lawn area that can be mowed right now, and you can't clean it up.
I don't see the catch basins on your plan that were supposed to be installed. Are they not there?
Right,
on the original approved plan, there's two catch basins in the side of the driveway, along with berms and drainage.
Right, I will do a report for you on that. But in actuality, what's happened is they did not fill the land as they had proposed. The land is not, it's not so I will give you a report.
Yeah, but he's got some work to do here.
No, he does. But actually, I'm suggesting to you that the grading is less impact.
Well, that wasn't what the reason the catch basins were done for. It was for drainage for the driveway and the asphalt
the roof drain.
the storm runoff and.
Correct. But if
those catch basins aren't in, I mean, I'm not going to allow them to go and put grass and mow within the 50 foot. That's not happening. And this area that you want to fill back here, looking at the old plan, is still within the 50 foot from the old delineated line. I mean, it's going to have to be pulled back out.
That's not really, it's just surface treatment. We're not trying to add any grades there. It's basically making it so that it's a better defined area. And that actually will help your runoff. So basically, I will provide you.
Plan?
Yeah, this is the approved plan. John, have you been out there?
Yes, I have.
I mean, we need a new plan.
Yeah. Oh, no, this is just, like I said, it's not finalized on. I don't have any report put together yet. But I am in the process of doing that. But just give you an area. And then these, what we're providing, what I'm showing here is almost about 15 trees that we want to plant along that area.
Can we get an as-built from the original, John? I mean, I want to know where the catch basins are and if they're really there.
I believe this is existing conditions that Azu has provided the commission. So this is kind of the as-built. You may not have all the inverse elevations and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it is an as-built. It is what's there.
And if we were going to do a certificate, we'd probably want more information on it,
right.
but it gives you an idea of what is out there and what it hasn't been put in compared to the proposed.
So what is it you
So
want us to do for you?
okay, so basically what I'm this is the direction I'd like to go, but what I'm asking for probably any 6 months or a year extension, just so I can get all my act together, if you will, and then get a complete total plan. But this is basically the direction I'd like to go. But most importantly,
The
just
other
right
one's
now.
expired.
It's gonna expire in August.
In August, right.
Do we usually do that? No.
If there's a reason
If
and they
it's-
can compel us, why it needs, I mean.
Is there a cost associated with a new filing?
Well, we're gonna do
Yeah.
a whole plan and all that.
Well, you're right. Right, I mean, at the end of the day, let me put it this way, at the end of the day, if the commission does not approve the minor changes that we are doing, we're not gonna do it. And we just ask for, then we'll do a final as-built and give you a certificate, a request for certificate of compliance.
There's a
So,
catch basin here, catch
CB.
basin here,
Yeah,
catch basin here, CB.
okay.
right, but I'm not sure where they're. Yeah, that'll help you, that's the original plan that we
This
had.
is where you wanna go
Right,
to be able to
So-
make the new plan.
Right, so if we, if I come back with those detailed plans and the commission doesn't approve it, we're just gonna clean up the site and request a certificate of
So what's
compliance.
delayed it up until now is just,
Well, me, because I have taken on the responsibility of doing the plan and actually hiring subcontractor to do the physical work. So I just haven't
so
been
time is run out.
healthy enough to.
I mean, they're gonna be draining somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, no,
But I
no.
mean, that's just the location where you want.
Right, I'm gonna show you where the pipes are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if we say, okay, then this or that.
No, you're not really saying okay.
But I mean, if we have, like, okay, we like where you're going, then you come back with a set of plans.
Detailed.
Where the catch basins.
What's there, where
the
they're
main zone.
flowing right
These
now.
catch basins on your plan, are they existing now?
Yeah, well, if I'm saying existing plan,
Right.
and I'm taking the professional responsibility, Mr. Hey, I hope I'm.
Then, so those are there.
Right, they were all supposed to be going to here and draining in
Well,
to this
yeah.
basin.
I just didn't pop them and then shoot the inverts. I just got all the.
Right, that's right there. The next one's right there. They're all supposed to come out. This one,
Yeah.
they're all supposed to drain.
There's just no detail here.
Yeah, that's all.
So if we extend you'll be back in some reasonable amount of
I'll be
time.
back in August. I just, and then we get the work done in September.
With all the details.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So, as my report indicates, there's two things. One is the deliberations about the extension, and then the second is to give him some direction as to whether these ideas that he's proposing is acceptable to the commission.
I think we're gonna have to grant an
Yeah.
extension one way or the other, whether it's
Well,
a 6
I
months or
know-
12 to get it done.
I would say go with 6, and
Yeah.
you say it'll be much sooner than that, but for
Oh, we'll
me,
get all the paperwork.
there's
in,
just
yeah.
not enough
Yeah,
detail
no,
here.
I understand that. I understand that. There's just stuff that I wanted to just, bounce.
I
That
mean,
house.
might be good, I don't
I thought they
know.
were gonna tear that down.
The house.
Yeah, weren't they gonna tear the house down?
Well, they did the garage, the barn.
Well, they have the.
Made it
They renovated the one in the front.
Oh, they made it small.
Yeah.
Because I went by one day, it was a big X on it, I'm like, oh, demolition. Oh, okay. Okay. A lot of work.
It's a big change if this is what we're looking at versus what we originally approved. And I mean, we had it looked at because of the stormwater runoff. And I wanna see those basins back in there. I wanna see that plan met
Yeah,
what was approved.
of
Yeah,
course.
and the basins are there.
We can do that even with an extension though.
Right. I mean, planting in the 50-foot is,
Yeah,
mean-
there's no demarcation of,
I mean, you got the 50-foot here, he wants to do a planting.
yeah.
You can do anything you wanna come up with outside the 50-foot. I mean, it looks like most of the invasive stuff you're wanting to clean up and clear out is outside of that. Except for this little section possibly down here.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can't do that
This-
till we approve
Right,
it anyway.
right. This is the actual 50, that's what I've done, and I showed you what will be a 25-foot line, that little blue line.
Oh,
That is a
yeah,
25
that's,
foot. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it doesn't
I mean-
hurt, it doesn't hurt to ask. That's
That's right. That's right.
You know, if you don't ask, you don't know.
That's right, yeah. So I guess we don't know until something comes back that has some
Right.
more detail, huh?
I mean, if they wanna deal with invasives, we can do that with part of an order of conditions with an invasive management plan, which we've done on other sites. And also the catch basin maintenance plan that'll have to be on file.
So I would presume you're not saying the maintenance would be just the mowing down. It would be getting rid of the invasive and letting something naturally go in, not just a lawn. Is that? I mean, do you consider taking down the invasives and planting it with lawn to be
No, putting
proper
a
management?
wetland cover crop or something on it to let that hopefully come back.
And not touch it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 50 foot. I mean, it's gonna be a no touch, no matter what we do with it, if they wanna.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, out of the 50 foot, you know.
Right, you don't
If-
have to.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ever just ask this favor, if you're meeting for your meeting in August, I don't know when you're meeting in August, what the schedule is.
The 1st and the 15th. would be
Oh,
the
okay, so you're doing two meetings
Yes.
in August, okay, I wasn't sure.
July's the only month that we.
Okay. I've got to bring my grandkids back, so if I could pull a complete report together for you, showing you, I can basically do a report detailing the status of what you approved, what we want to do, and then have that package for you a week before your second meeting in August. And then if that doesn't work, and then we'll clean
Good
up what we
starting
have
point,
and then just go and request a certificate of compliance. But if that works, then I will need the fall to do the work, and then monitor my planting to make sure that they've taken. So I will be, in that case, I would like to request a 12-month extension.
Realistically, he's gonna need spring to make sure whatever he plants this fall.
Right. You know, truly.
Instead of having to have him come back in 6 months for another 6 months.
Oh, I see, you mean,
I
so
mean,
give them a year.
give him a year from the
Yeah.
get-go.
That's
Give
fine,
them-
I don't care.
It'll be done before that, it's just.
I'm feeling,
Just
I'm-
in
I'm
Right,
just
he's
in
gonna-
case.
You do it maybe
I'm
wait
doing
for
better
whatever to
health-wise,
grow back.
so.
And whatever's gonna have to grow to prove.
So,
Because if he has to go back in and do work to replace what doesn't
Yes.
make it through the next year,
Right.
that's gonna be either in another extension or a whole new filing just to do
so we need a motion to extend the current order of conditions 12 months.
12 months.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you very much. And I'll have a report a week before your second meeting in August.
At least we'll be able to move forward on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I do appreciate you taking the time to hear me.
Not a
Thank you.
problem.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You
See ya. All right.
Big. We're down to signing some documents at this point?
Yeah. Here's our map. Did you bring me anything? Here.
No, I was just saying, why don't we just write something up here? So I was gonna do it, I'm gonna do it on a piece of paper.
You mean you want me to?
No, I'll do it, but I mean, I'm just gonna write it on a piece of paper.
Yep, okay, right on the back of, let's write some verbiage on the back of that.
Everybody, special kind of verbiage. On the verbiage.
Like, give me
Oh,
money,
kind of verbiage.
give me money. I come
On the
up-
back of this?
Yeah,
Excuse me.
right
Okay.
down there.
No nap
so-
today?
Oh, I had a nap, yeah.
And here is one
Just wait till the August first meeting.
to take out of the,
Do what?
53D
Wait till the
money.
August first meeting.
Yeah, they all, I think, are gonna start coming together.
There's
now.
a state limit, you know, on an hour and 45 minutes commission meeting.
I always agree with that. No, I've been in the meetings where you get 9, 10, 11,
Oh, God.
and people are
People just.
falling
Yeah,
asleep.
sure.
It used to be awful with this.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember there
But there was too much.
10:30 was a normal
There was
time
too
we
much
used to get out of
rally-
here.
rally
Yeah.
going, too much.
Buffoonery.
We're all more or less getting.
You want to hand me that one?
Yeah, this-
Because we're not
trust
gonna have
me.
him sign this one.
Some
Trust
of the
me on your
Taunton
government.
Conservation
Oh,
Commission
yeah.
meetings
Yes, that's
got
the one
over
that
after
Lee's
midnight.
created.
Oh, really?
It was hostile buffoonery, that's what it
No,
was.
no need for it.
We're good twice a month too?
Who's this one?
Yeah, I believe it was,
That
twice
is
a
the
month.
53G for,
Oh, they pay us.
yes,
and we
yeah,
pay them.
yeah, we're just transferring out of the
Gotcha.
account that's held. And this one is for the chain link fence that Lee picked up.
Lee, you're the man.
So you guys aren't gonna forget to take pictures of those signs, right?
Yeah, when we get in there,
I knew that.
we're gonna throw Ryan in there and see. Go for it. It's very mosquito-y. I'll make a
My
video
son.
of it.
50,000.
Yeah, there you go. Anything else, John?
Nothing, other than, we're still waiting on the gas company to remove the gas line for the mobile home on River Street so we can let the fellow demolish it.
Oh, that does remind me, when you said gas, that reminded me of the gas station that tanks are removed
Oh, yeah, down here.
down at the corner where the Hess station was. However, I happen to notice that there's a new sign across the street in front of the billboard. Which, it's probably been there for a month or more.
The for sale.
Yeah, for selling a
Yeah.
piece of property somewhere. I'm just curious, for one, if that's within our jurisdiction, that they can put a sign up like that. And two, I'm sure the ZBA didn't approve a permit, so that's a bigger sign than you can just put up. The 2 4x4s and supports.
Yeah.
That-
Probably
I mean,
not, just.
Probably
throw it up.
not approved or permitted to put it there to begin with.
Would you like me to ask the building inspector?
Yeah, you could. I know we had so much discussion with that billboard to begin with.
Just to work on it. Yeah.
Right, was an act of Congress.
Where
so
is
to
the
speak.
house? I thought it was in the back of
Yeah,
that lot.
yeah.
I haven't had one in a long time, I don't know what it
very
I
is.
believe it's been sold, so I'm surprised the sign's
Yeah,
still
well,
up.
that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Unless the
Say
idea
so.
is that there's gonna be another house going up there selling somewhere else with,
Yeah.
There won't be, but,
Yeah.
it's probably more for advertising than anything
Yes.
else.
Right, but
So,
it's-
I don't think the building inspector would like that, so I'll talk to him
Yeah,
about it and
I'm
ask
just-
him. There,
that's the case, you're gonna see them pop up everywhere all of a sudden.
You gonna sign that?
You will see another tank removal at the Hess station, and it's gonna be part of the original. They just didn't get all of it done. And in order, instead of leaving everything exposed, they blacktopped it. The area that they're gonna do is in front of the recent blacktop patch that you see there, because there is one more small 500-gallon tank that they have to pull out. So that's gonna commence on Monday. And then once they finish that, they'll ask for the certificate. And they've
So
done.
presumably they can just sell that land now? Tanks are out.
From what I've heard, they haven't found any leakage, so that
Yeah.
it's clean.
Well, those were just put in not too long ago,
Yes, you're right.
when they did all
Yeah.
to make it into a, what was it?
So
To make
there's
it into a
still
house, yeah.
tanks in the
There is
ground?
one more tank.
Once they
that-
take that out, it's,
It's clean. So Monday's excavation will also require the LSP to be there, which is the licensed site professional certified by DEP to review those kinds of activities. And they have to test the water and the soils to see if there's any leakage. The fire department comes out, I come up. And then if everything's clean, and I don't make that determination, I just make sure there's no contamination getting into catch basins, that kind of, or the wetlands. But the fire department's concerned, and they will test it, and the licensed site professional will, and if everything's clean, they just take the tank out. If it's got anything in it, they pump it out first, take the thing out and dispose of it, and fill it back in and blacktop over, and that'll be the end of it. That's the last of it.
I thought it was a pretty good location.
Apparently it wasn't busy enough to, because of the configuration of the lot, it's hard to get into and get out with a traffic light right there. And,
Without a convenience store, I'm sure it didn't
Yeah, it wasn't
make the revenue that.
big of a parking lot.
Right.
Yeah.
so they needed just probably a little bit more to make it profitable.
Probably
And
put a house there.
somebody stopped by and thought they might wanna put in a liquor store there.
Why not?
Well, isn't
Or a
across
gun shop.
isn't across the street being sold?
And
Catch 'em
the
going the
one
other
across
way.
the street is being sold and rehabbed. So I don't know if the liquor store will stay there, but
And there's no liquor store or another coffee shop.
Yeah, or another coffee shop.
I don't know.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
We're adjourned. However, the first could be deadly.